to keep people from getting beat up with the baton. So they pulled out their batons.
I know. I don't like that angle.
Those waters are behind the.
I can't understand why they. Pardon me? I did. Almost.
Could you? This is live. This is live. Could you put it up there by the salt?
Really?
No, like the other way.
Oh, my bad.
You gotta check this out. Saturday, March 30th in the Elegance Center, located at 2300 Sierra Boulevard in Sacktown. Special Bay Area guest Daryl Anders, Agape Soul, dropping spiritual fuckability that's unequivocally jazzy. Lynn Roundtree and Agape Soul. General concert senior tickets are available at all Dimple Records. Get preferred seats online at jazz@2300.com. For VIP seating, call 916-284-7734. That's 284-7734. If you're grown, don't come alone to Jazz at 2300.
Here we go. We're live,
We're
Richard.
back to Family Matters on 97.5 with the Professor,
Mics are hot right
Marty
now.
Harris.
It's a family affair. Don't be laughing.
Let's do that
Brother
over.
man over here. Look at brother man over here. Oh. Let the old folks sing our song, youngster. He got that voice right there.
Hey, let me hear some of that Barry White, man.
That's just my
Practice
natural
what
way of
you
speaking,
preach.
Richard. We got Black Lives Matter in the house. We had the NAACP. Betty Williams is still here, the president of the Sacramento branch of the NAACP. The phones have been ringing off the hook. Shout out to all of our loyal listeners. We love you all. We'll try to get you in, but I want to give Tanya Faison, who's been in the studio for over an hour, her due. I want her to introduce her colleague, and then I want her to just jump on in wherever she wants to jump in. Tanya.
Oh, okay. The first thing I want to say is I know a couple of weeks ago you had, I think his name is Sam Starks.
Yes.
He was on here and we were talking about the Martin Luther
MLK
King Day March.
365 and all
Yeah,
that.
so I wanted to make things clear because it seems like there's a misunderstanding with folks on that side and why they think that we come to that march. They think that we're protesting them or something, but the goal is to join them. So every year we've had that march. We've been doing it since 2016, January 2015, January 2015. And every time that we do that march, we make sure to stop at the community center to meet the other marchers. We have a problem with marching with the police. That's why we don't join them.
Hello.
Martin Luther King, he was arrested over 30 times. I'm sure if he was here today, he would not be marching with the police.
Hello.
So we don't march with the police, but we do love Black people. So we do meet them at the community center and try to align with them. And every year, sometimes the police try to separate us, and we end up getting that taken care of. But this year, the truck was there blocking us, and it seemed very strategic by whoever the organizer is. And the music was loud, and we just wanted to join people. We always come in doing the Asada chant.
Yes.
And the Asada chant is, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and support one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. That is what we say when we come into that march. And this year we were greeted by loud music, so they tried to drown us out.
Yes.
And that's when we became then we started pushing back. So I just wanted to make that clear because I don't ever want anyone to get the impression or even give the impression that Black Lives Matter Sacramento is going to go and protest some Black people.
Oh!
So, yeah, I just wanted to set that straight. And hopefully Sam is listening so he understands as well.
And if not, we'll make sure he listens to the rebroadcast on Saturday from 8 to 10. This is good for me. It's good for my soul right now. Number one, looking into younger Black people's faces.
Thank you.
And knowing that there's a hope for the future. Tanya could have let this drop. It's been now since the middle of January this occurred. You remembered it. You wanted to explain it. Betty giving that beautiful show of support and what she said earlier. For everybody who says, how come Black folks are so divided? We have these examples of real leaders stepping up to embrace in a respectful way. And I'm really proud of you. I'm proud of Betty. I'm proud of Sam. I'm proud of all of you who are doing the right thing for our community. Talk to us, brother. Tell us your name and tell us your organization and why you're here with us today.
My name Brrazey Liberty, charge the Kastle organization, charge the Kastle with a K. I'm here just to, talk to the people, express my love, and raise awareness for a couple things that's going on.
Man, that voice come from slavery days right there.
Woo,
that was strong.
I'm trying to keep things, sometimes we lose a focus by humor. Sometimes it releases and relaxes. I want to stay on point. I want to respect our guests and our listeners. Charge the Kastle. Can you tell us about Charge the Kastle?
Yes.
You told us about it the last time, and it's been on my mind since you explained it to me. What's Charge the Kastle? Explain that to our listeners.
Charge the Kastle really is about charging the structure of white supremacy and capitalism, and at the end of the day, bringing it down, bringing together all black people in Sacramento, California, and across the nation, and really just raising our awareness about the need to defend ourselves and gun ownership and things of that nature.
One of the things you heard me talk about when you were here in the studio with a caller ago, or two callers ago, was this issue of white being the enemy. And as you know, I think you remember from the last time, I teach at a university, and I taught about social responsibility yesterday, and you can't teach responsibility without calling a thing a thing.
Right.
It ain't privilege, it's white privilege. Now, here's the deal. You kind of linked white and capitalism. I talk generically and politically about oppressed and oppressor, about people with power and people without seeking power. I tend not to go white, black, other ethnicity stuff, because that's the great separator that a lot of folks want to see us have. And I don't know about Charge the Kastle, but I know about BLM Sacramento. One of the things most impressive to me is how multi-ethnic it is.
Indeed.
So talk to me, Tanya. Can we separate out black versus white? Is it black versus white? Is greedy capitalists synonymous with white? I mean, what can we say about this? Your white folks are different in BLM than the white folks who live in East Sacramento.
Yes, they are.
Talk about it.
So I hate to break it to you, but it's definitely black and white. The origin of all of these things is based on slavery, and the origin is where we're at today. Like, we've built up off that origin, or not us, everybody's built up off this origin. So there's people that are oppressed, and there's people that are beneficiaries of our oppression, and the beneficiaries are white people, and then people that try to align with white people.
And that's local, state, and national, or is that global?
That's global.
But we're going to have a brother come on who is from Honduras. He is of African descent, living in Honduras, multi-generationally Honduran. This diaspora of not just ethnicity, but diaspora of oppressed versus oppressor breaks down, to me, on black and white basis. The chief of police in almost every major city right now is black. And that ain't stopping nobody from killing black folks.
Because diversity is not going to save us.
But if it's a black and white thing, maybe I need a better interpretation of what we mean by, I'm taking pigment. Black meaning dark pigment, white meaning little or very little pigment.
So it's white supremacy.
Okay, talk about that.
So it's when white people are considered supreme in this country.
Right.
So it's not necessarily a Nazi or a skinhead. It is our president. It is our mayor. It is our chief of police. I mean, if you have a seat at that table, then you're complying and you're complicit with white supremacy, and it's not going to change. It's not going to ever. It's meant to be the way that it is.
Also, it's white male patriarchy. That's what it is.
There it
I
is.
mean,
Thank you.
most of the time you work for the white man and he tells you what to do. You know what I'm saying? You don't move unless you have the green light.
Okay, so the question now is, as we bring it right to this situation with Stephon Clark and the protests associated with not only his killing, but also the assassination of his character. What do you have to say about that, Tanya? That's a good start, because that's the way all of us feel.
I just want to remind the listeners, because I know that earlier we were talking about the different names of people that were killed over the years, and you had said the last one and said Stephon Clark, but there's been 3 more people after him that have been killed by Sacramento law enforcement, and it's really, really important to lift their names because they're not getting this high-profile treatment. And so Brandon Smith, Daryl Richards, he was only 19 years old, and then Marshall Miles, who we saw the video that the sheriff finally, the first time he's ever released a video, and the coroner is the first time a coroner's ever said that they were complicit in the murder of this man.
And Mr. Miles was incarcerated. He was in the jail when he was killed. He was in the jail, supposedly in his cell, fine. And the next thing we know, according to the sheriff, when they went to check on him, he had mysteriously died. That's their story.
Marshall Miles?
That's the third.
Nah, well, I think he was being processed And
he died as he was on his way to the hospital. I thought he was in his cell though when he supposedly had these issues.
No, they on the video they show officers carrying him. They have him hogtied. They're carrying him, and then they put him on the ground, and about 6 officers or however many were all kneeling on his upper part of his body while he's saying he can't breathe.
Right.
And then he died.
But okay, I'm not going.
Well,
when I was, because I
know it took a couple of days, but
it took a couple of days. That's all I'm saying. So I'm trying to be precise with the bottom line. He died in their custody and by their actions, apparently.
Right.
And we need to get some justice for his family relative to that. There's one more thing, Tanya, that I got so much that I want to talk to you about. This ACLU lawsuit.
Yes.
The first thing I did when I saw that the ACLU was representing Tanya and Black Lives Matter Sacramento in this First Amendment lawsuit against Scott Jones was congratulate her and tell her, if there's anything I can do to support it, let me know. And she said, we got it. Talk to us about that lawsuit, Tanya, why it's so important. Explain it to our listeners, what's at issue with that lawsuit.
So our Sheriff Scott Jones, who's, me and him have a very weird relationship, to say the least. But yeah, he has a Facebook page, and it's a public Facebook page. It's one of the pages that you go and you click like, so you don't have to be his friend to follow it. And it's a Facebook page. It says Sheriff Scott Jones. He's in his uniform for the picture. It's his public figure Facebook page. So he made a post, and apparently he saved some screenshots from 2015 from my Facebook page, and he shared them, and he tried to vilify me. So let me rewind. He did 2 posts. The first post, he was asking people to join him at the Board of Supervisors meeting because he said that Phil Cerna and BLM Sacramento are trying to have a liberal takeover. And by the way, I'm not a liberal, so that was wrong.
Wrong, number one.
Yeah, so liberal takeover, all this stuff, and I didn't comment on that because I felt like it was petty. And so then we went to the Board of Supervisors, and we won. I'm gonna say we won.
And you did.
He did another post. He had screenshots of 2 of my screenshots. One of them is from BLM Sacramento, where we basically say that we don't like the police or we don't like Scott Jones. And then another one was from my personal page, and it was a post that I shared. It was actually a picture that I shared from another activist, and it was basically saying F the police. So he put that up there. Then he also included a picture of Phil Cerna with 2 black women holding a Black Lives Matter Sacramento t-shirt. And it wasn't one of our t-shirts. It's before our chapter existed. It was when there was a fight up at the courthouse with Sierra Health. And they were saying Black Lives Matter Sacramento. And so he tried to align us with each other and then talk bad about us. I went on there and I just asked some questions. I didn't say anything I didn't say anything divisive. I actually asked if he's going to start having his people follow me now, like come after me. I think I asked, I told him I felt complimented that he saved images from 2015 from my Facebook page.
I don't even have any of those of you.
I don't either. But yeah, so I said those things. He was deleting my comments in real time. So I logged into another page that I have, and I commented again. He blocked me.
Can I ask you a question? And Mama Mills, I'm going to turn the mic over to you as well, and Richard. What's it like, Tanya, for both of y'all? What's it like? I got young people listening in from UC Merced, shout out to them, and other young people listening. The woman who called a couple of callers ago said that people need to be ready to put it on the line. Their lives on the line is what she said, and she's right about that. Everybody who's doing this the real way is what's it like walking around knowing, I don't want to say a target on your back, knowing that you're putting your life at jeopardy by what you guys are saying, what you guys are doing. I'm going to go to you for, what's that like, carrying that weight? What would you say about that?
I would say it's a moral responsibility that I'm honored to take. You know what I'm saying? I think everybody should have that moral responsibility and do what they got to do. I don't feel like it's a weight. I feel like it's necessary because when I die, you know what I'm saying, I won't die, you know what I'm saying, because I align with the people, I align with the revolution, and the revolution will live on, you feel me, the people will live on with the fight. So I mean, it's just a commitment, and I think we all need to take that commitment and not really get too caught up in the distractions that capitalism puts in front of our face, you know what I'm saying, because they just want to keep us distracted and think that dying is the end, you know what I'm saying, but we're not really living if we're slaves to our jobs or slaves to the distractions on TV or slaves to the rules of society. You know what I'm saying? We're restrained, and that's not living.
Come on, Tanya, what you think? Because we've talked about this before. It's been at least 3 years since the killing of Joseph Mann, where you and I have been engaged back and forth on stuff. We appeared on that PBS show together, kind of began our relationship. What's it like carrying this responsibility around day in, day out?
I mean, it is, he basically said a lot, but it is a commitment, and like you have to know in advance this is what you're getting into, and then you have to stick to it. And like he said, you cannot be distracted. There are a lot of distractions. It's really like I've never in my life, not even in high school, seen as many petty distractions as there are doing this work. From my own people, from the government, like, you know, from the police. I went to UC Davis, the hospital, like a couple weeks ago, and they have their own police department, and those officers knew who I was and treated me a certain way. So, you know, it is very real. When you start putting your face out here and you start doing this work, it is going to be very real. Expect it. That's one of the first things I tell the families is, like, you know, expect the police to start following you, to start parking in front of your house, because it gets very real. But we're fighting for our lives. It's not a joke. This is a war.
You know, and maybe we're paranoid, and maybe paranoia is based on fact. Mama Mills and I used to go to a certain Starbucks. There's another Starbucks you and I used to go to, but we used to go to a Starbucks, and when the heat of all this was happening back through Flanall and also Mann, all of a sudden, the cops would show up at this Starbucks mysteriously when Mama Mills and I were there. And then after things calmed down, they no longer found that time and that stuff. It's that, and would make eye contact. Of course, I made eye contact right back. Now, maybe I'm being paranoid. It's all coincidental. We're all shaking our head. Everybody here, there's no coincidence to this. You are putting certain things on the line when you speak truth to power. There's no question about it. This ain't for the faint at heart. Go ahead, Tom.
I can name names. I mean, you know, we've had officers literally follow us around blocks. You know, circle the block and talk crap out of their car. Officer Leong, he's the captain that made, Norman Leong, he's the captain that made the call that night when all those 80 plus people were arrested and abused. And he bragged about it on his Twitter page. He's announcing things in real time. Okay, there's arrest now. That's your Twitter page, bro. That's not the Sacramento PD page.
Richard, I want to go to you on that. And I know you have something else to say, but what about the people of Sacramento who aren't aware, but if they are aware, would say, well, you know, they got to do what they got to do to keep the peace and keep things safe. And they may not be methods we would take. Is it that they don't know or that they don't care, in your opinion?
Both. I think it's both. But one of the things I want to say, and Mark, you know my background, I don't want to get into it. I've been where Tanya's been, and actually a little bit deeper in a lot of ways.
Different.
Different. Different would be a better description. But, a different level of intensity, a different level of violence, different level of everything. And it's important that those of us that are a little older and whatever in different positions, we got to protect Tanya and people in Black Lives Matter. Because I guarantee you, they're tapping her phone, they're monitoring all of her communications, they're tracking people's other history, they're taking pictures of all the members. I'm sure it's posted up on a wall somewhere, okay? And we remember this stuff with J. Edgar Hoover. We remember what the FBI did to the Black Panther Party. Toward the end of the Black Panther Party, there probably were more police in the Black Panther Party than there were Panther members. And that's just a fact. All right, and a lot of us got entrapped in that as a result. And so one of the things that I admire about Tanya, she's very smart and strategic. They never commit acts of violence. They don't go there. They're being encouraged to do so, I think, by the police. But they never cross that line, but they agitate in a very effective way. So we need to always be prepared to protect them. And there have been a couple of occasions where Tanya has reached out to me and Rashid and others and said, hey, come down to Arden and Del Paso Boulevard because these people are getting ready to attack us.
Well, that's
and we would go down there and try to provide some support.
That's the question I have, Tanya. And I know it's semantics to a certain extent, but there's substance to semantics. One of the things that struck me the most and cemented our friendship, and I'm paraphrasing, was you basically saying, I don't need you to kind of counsel. I don't need your advice unless I ask for it, basically. That's the way I interpret it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I respect that. Talk to us about what can we do to support. It's not, if protect is what you need, cool, but I don't think y'all need that. I need you to protect me sometime. Is it, how can we support you? Same thing to you, Betty, same thing to what you're doing with Charge the Kastle. What can we do as a community, particularly the OG community, to support you?
Yeah, I mean, and then to speak what Richard said, a lot of people, they rely on us, and that's where the problem is. I get so many people, they show me love, they say, hey, I really like what you're doing, keep doing it, you're protecting us, you're doing this for us, and it's like, okay, well, I need your help. I can't
Just
do
show
this
up.
by myself.
Right.
Yeah.
So bodies, like, when we took over the freeway and when we shut down Golden 1, it's because we had people.
You had people.
And people
Yes.
power is very powerful. Like, we saw it happen. We saw change. So much change that kept happening after those days. So when you have bodies out there with you, then you have more power. You can't criticize what we're doing, and you can't criticize the fact that changes haven't happened if you're not out there trying to make it happen.
Come on.
It's not my job to work for you, although I do.
Yes.
And we need you out there with us.
Say that again, Tanya.
It is not my job to work for you, although I do, and I will continue to,
Yes.
because I love my people.
Yes.
But
Let's not get it twisted though.
right,
The other thing I'm gonna ask you all both, because you all both are activists. I did not ask Betty this question. You know, sometimes to co-opt our people, various means are used. Lots of times with money, almost every time with money. Back to what you said about capitalism. Let's just go there. And I'm not just talking about those so-called activists. Betty's fanning herself over there.
we're gonna have a conversation today.
It's time to go. Not just those folks who are clearly accepting direct contributions from law enforcement. I think that is an absolute conflict of interest. But we got organizations like Build Black. And I want to know what y'all think, Charge the Kastle and BLM Sacramento, about Build Black. Let's get real Pacific in terms of what you think.
Did you say Pacific?
Yes, I did.
Come on now.
First
You know,
blow the
like the
whistle on that
ocean.
one.
Yeah, like the
You know,
ocean.
women.
Go ahead.
Well, pertaining to Build Black, I would say they, first and foremost, they should let Black women speak more often and be seen more often in regards to what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Especially with Black Lives Matter Sacramento.
I'm sorry. You don't see Betty behind. Betty's behind you
Especially,
reacting.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Tanya and
yeah.
all the Black women in Black Lives Matter Sacramento, I mean, they do a lot of work, you know what I'm saying, and mobilizing the people
Yeah.
and getting certain things put in place for people to take advantage of, you know what I'm saying? So first and foremost, they need to lift Black women more often and put them in the spotlight. I wouldn't call it the, I don't want to say the spotlight, but don't take all the
Shine.
the shine, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They're the main driver, I
Now,
would say.
well, on that point, to you, Tanya, then to you, Mama Mills. On that point, if the press is identifying who our leaders are, if the press is identifying who they put the microphone in front of their face, I've seen Richard do this, and I compliment him for this. He has said sometimes, I don't take the microphone out of my face. Go talk to her. Or go
Indeed.
talk to her. More of us got to do that.
Right.
Tanya, what you think?
Um,
Betty, come on up. I want you. Maybe Sister Williams needs to grab you.
She's getting a workout. So I agree with what Brrazey said. There are a lot of people that are in this for the wrong reasons, and so they take that shine whenever they can, and they'll even take it if it's not theirs.
Ooh.
And so that's what's been happening. You see it in the media. Like, I mean, I talk to the media all the time, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I talked to so and so right before I talked to you."
Right.
And to me, that's problematic because they're taking credit for the work that we put in. Build Black, and I know that this is probably going to be unpopular with that organization or that coalition or the folks that lead it.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, I know what it is, but it would not be possible for Build Black to exist if it was not for Black Lives Matter Sacramento. And that is the truth. Like,
And the people.
the people, well, the people with, yeah, when the people shut down Golden 1,
Yes.
and when we took over the freeway,
Yes.
not just one side, but both sides,
Yes.
that created the opportunity.
Right.
And the Kings acknowledged it and showed us love, showed Black Lives Matter Sacramento love, and showed solidarity with the people. That created an opportunity to build. And what happened is you know, you have a coalition now that exists because of that opportunity.
Yes. Now,
And
here's my
that's
thing, and I don't mind that. If I've had them on the show, and I've asked every single time, Richard and Mama Mills and Marty Marr and Mr. Scott can attest to this. Can you tell us 5 priorities for BLM, for Build Black, and what you've actually done to accomplish any of the 5. Not one time. You can text me now. You can hit me via email. You can tweet about it. Give me tangible support for the premise that you're doing things on behalf of the community more than what is visible that the media is portrayed. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. This ties as well to something that's near and dear to a lot of us, and I know Richard and I felt different about Measure U. The money associated with Measure U and those who are receiving the benefit, who then support. Now, if you're independent as Richard was, he had it, as everybody has a right to their opinion. But that opinion is so much more powerful to me and persuasive if you ain't getting them 30 pieces of silver in your hand. That's right. And so that's the divisiveness in our community that we need to speak in. There is a certain political person in this city who told Betty Williams he would never support her again in any political way because she did not support Measure U.
Can I say something to that, please?
Please do.
And I didn't know that Betty had that experience, but anytime our people should not be visibly divided. We should not allow folks to come into our space and divide us, especially white folks in politics, especially when we're fighting these very people. The mayor shouldn't be going to black leaders and having them do anything for anybody at any time. And that's happening on a regular basis. And I'm not feeling it. Like the mayor in these meetings that they've been having the last couple months they got all these black leaders. He literally is trying to he's trying to facilitate organizing by black people with his agenda and then being asked into those spaces.
Richard, I'm coming to you, but let me go to that. The Attorney General, through his representatives, tried to get me to support his independent investigation that the chief of police asked him to do. I said, absolutely not, Betty. Now, I don't know who did, but when they called me, I said, no, and here's why. Because you're not going to do the right thing. It's not going to be objective and independent, and I already know what the outcome's going to be. And they tried to insinuate, you're a lawyer, and you're a prominent lawyer, are you sure that pressure, we can bring certain pressure on you as a lawyer? I said, I'm not going to participate in that. I haven't participated in any of the stuff with the city that's doing, not because I don't believe in us being improved, but because I know that the game is shady. The game is shady. The bottom line is we got to be strong enough to tell people no too. If it ain't right, we got to be. Y'all as young leaders have done a better job of that, I think, than some in my generation who are trying to get the shine.
Right.
They want the shine. Richard, what you think?
I have a couple of thoughts with regard to Bill Black. It seems as though the Sacramento Kings have decided,
They co-opted that.
and the city has decided who ought to be the recipients of this Bill Black,
Mm.
who ought to be the leaders of it. And they're people that we know and respect. But on the other hand, it's not widely dispersed. There's no participation. They're making all the calls with regard to who gets the money from the Kings, you know, the Kings, Queens, Rising, all that kind of stuff is all good.
Who even gets the T-shirts and the basketball tickets?
Well, who came up with the name Bill Black?
Come on.
I wasn't part of that.
It's very catchy.
I mean, and so I want to be careful about that though, because I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. But I think the point about being careful about who anoints our leaders.
That's right. Yes.
And always monitoring our leaders to make sure they're not totally co-opted. All right. Now listen. The other thing is
Say that again, though. Monitoring our leaders, though.
Oh, absolutely.
That's real.
But listen, I'm a triple OG. All right? History and experience tells me a lot about this right now. What we're going through. And when I look at this stuff, I look at it through the lens of what I personally experienced and what I've observed over many, many, many moons. If you look in history, all of our black movements are sabotaged from us, from within.
Right.
Marcus Garvey was betrayed by a black man. Martin Luther King was betrayed by a black man. But Stokely Carmichael, Malcolm X, the Black Panther Party. If I can name them all. So we have to be careful. On the one hand, we have to monitor our leaders to make sure they're not co-opted.
Right.
But at the same time, we've got to be careful not to let them destroy us in the process, because that's what they're seeking to do. Everything that Tanya described is quite accurate.
Right.
And if we're not careful, we're going to play right into it again.
I'm going to turn the mic over to Mama Mills to ask some questions. But one of the things that I think is important is we got to call it as we see it. And as Farrakhan said, Louis Farrakhan, yeah, I went there. If what I say curls up your toes, don't blame me. So if it's viewed as divisive because we're telling truth, then the truth hurts if it's got to hurt, but we got to tell truth. We can't sit up and give a pass to our 3 African-American elected officials on the city council. We can't give a pass to Phil Cerna on the County Board of Supervisors. We can't give a pass to Don Natoli. We can't give a pass to Javier Becerra. We can't do it. And it really is a generational split because there's more of our generation doing that, giving them a pass, than their generation's doing that.
But that's always been true.
Can I say something to what you
Please,
said?
please.
I just want to let it be known that we are part of the Build Black Coalition, and they had that event at the King with the Golden One Center. They gave us one ticket.
Oh, that's disgusting.
And
NAACP, one ticket?
One ticket.
The two of us,
But-
one ticket.
Split between the two?
No,
of
no,
them?
no,
Oh,
not split.
But still, they gave y'all
But
one
that's
ticket
not
each.
it. That's not it.
They
But
said
it
each other
is.
left.
But I'm saying though, even that, after that,
But
they
it is.
announced one of the people as the person that led folks to the Golden One Center to shut it down. And nobody shut that down.
What?
Nobody said that's not accurate. Nobody called that out. So he took that and gave his little 5-minute speech. We were not at the table to the organizing of that. We were not invited to speak at that.
That's a shame. That's shameful.
And it was about police accountability. Like we're the only group at that table that I'll say there's one more person
Yes,
that
yeah.
makes sure that when we have these meetings that we're bringing up police accountability, because all they talk about is economic
Mama Mills?
equity.
You know, I'm listening to all of this, and I had the opportunity this past weekend to be at Cal State Monterey Bay for the Black Student Unions of California United. So over 400 African American students from Fresno all the way down through the Bay Area got together. And one of the unique things that I observed as someone who sits on that board is the students did a lot of talent. They did a lot of spoken word. And most all of the spoken word and poetry they did all had something to do with police shootings. All of them, hands down. So what I would like to ask you, and I'm looking at Build Black, and I remember someone who always called our home, and I would do 100 backpacks easily every time they asked of our family. We always, all of a sudden it's crickets. I don't hear anything. So I'm assuming the Measure U money or some other money came through. So they don't need me anymore. And that's okay.
You are
And that's
becoming your
really
husband.
okay.
Lord have mercy.
And that's okay. But what I would like to know from you, because I know NAACP has a youth force that is strong. I also know that Black Lives Matter has a force that's strong. And I want to know, what can we do for the youth who are troubled? Because I was dealing with Sac City Unified, and we were doing an email stream. And the young man who handles their after-school program said to the other person on the email stream, you know, can you hold it a minute? I'm dealing with what happened with Stephon Clark. And my students need to have me with them right now to listen to their concerns. So can you give a pause? And she apologized for being so insensitive. So you understand that you've got a lot of young people who are watching you and listening. What can we do, or what are your organizations doing to address their needs, especially at this time when, you know, they're wondering, am I safe in my own backyard? There's a lot of feeling about that in the community.
I mean, I would say the youth should be speaking. The youth have to be the ones that are leading. You know what I'm saying? People that are 35 and older can't think they can speak for the youth. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The youth have their own voice. You know what I'm saying? So we'd have to put them on the forefront first and foremost. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what I would say to that.
Tanya?
I agree. I think that we have a lot of leaders in our youth. And one thing that I really want to highlight is that, you know, like all these organizations exist. There's a lot of organizations in Sacramento.
Yes.
And they get funding and they call themselves, you know, taking care of the youth or children, but they're not reaching a really large base of people that need it the most. And so that's what needs to be focused on. Like, we need to go to the people. And, you know, I know you guys have heard that. You go to where the people are at. That's how you get the people. And BLM, we have a hard time getting the youth. That's why I was like, you go first, because we have a hard time reaching the youth. We're trying, though. Like, we go to Sac High. We speak to certain teachers' classes. And there's certain youth I know that organize, and I help them. I try to assist them.
Of course, I'm gonna hand it right back to you, Mama Mills, but I want to commend Betty and the NAACP. They have among the most comprehensive youth outreach of anything, and inclusion of anything I've seen. They've got a day coming up soon that is their legislative day with all these young people. They bring them from all over the state. When I did your program in the summer, your Freedom School program, I think is an amazing program. So I love that both of you were saying, just because you 30 or 35, you ain't 18. You ain't
Right.
16.
That's true.
And that's part of it too.
Yeah,
We ain't talking
yeah.
about 50 and 60-year-olds trying to
Yeah.
relate. It's hard for 30-year-olds to relate to people younger
Right.
than 25 or 20. Mama Mill?
You know, Tanya, I have to tell you this part. I did a survey
Mm.
of 70 African American students in the Sacramento region because I wanted to do a program that honors their achievement. And so one of the questions was if there are any people that you want to have speak to you that would speak to your concerns. Do you know the number one vote getter is Black Lives Matter?
Yes, we're
They
here for
want
that.
to hear from Black Lives Matter. They're concerned about police brutality, and they associate you as someone who's doing something
On the
about
front
it.
lines.
On the front lines. So I wanted to compliment you for that
Thank
because
you.
now I challenged this organization. I said, what are you going to do to deliver on what they say they want? And that's what you were saying. What are they asking for? That's why I'm reaching out with a needs assessment.
And
What do
I
you
think
want to
that's
hear?
why the schools are so important because they reach the kids that organizations can't reach. I mean, you have an organization and you have a youth program and you have parents bringing their kids.
Right.
But what if the parents can't bring their kids? What if there's parents that have a job that takes all their hours out of the day?
Right.
And so you have these kids that don't have access to these resources.
Right.
Those are the ones that we need to be talking to. And so that's why schools are important.
Right.
And we've gone to Sac High a lot.
Okay.
We have an education group within our chapter
Nice.
Okay.
who focus on folks. We did something at Kennedy for a student that called out to us. We did something, I want to say at El Camino.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's important that we reach all the kids. So that's the thing is like, I have a really hard time with people or organizations that say that they're there. Like I was told the other day, we have parents of children right now that have no fathers because the state killed them. And so you've got Brandon Smith, his children's mother is here. She's got 3 kids. She just moved to Sacramento from Reno. She has no resources. We got her a car so she can get around town. But like, I was like, okay, well, what resources can we give her? And they're like, oh, bring her to, you know, blank, blank, blank. I won't say the name.
That's right.
But then they say that there's a CPS worker in there and that there's the sheriff people that work in there. And I'm
No.
not sending people in there.
No.
So yeah, it is a set.
Well,
It's a problem.
and Brrazey, you know, you've talked about charges.
Brrazey.
Brrazey.
Crazy,
Brrazey.
like
Great.
crazy.
Oh, nice, Brrazey. Brrazey has told us that Charge the Kastle, what Charge the Kastle is about. Tanya, of course, has talked about Black Lives Matter Sacramento. The last 7 or so minutes that we have left, I asked Betty this same thing. I challenged her to kind of give us prospective future steps. What would you say, Brrazey, in terms of what some of the steps should be going forward? And then Tanya, I'm going to ask you that same question.
I would say, because it seems like a lot of stuff going on. You know what I'm saying? You brought up Measure U, Bill Black. You know, it's some stuff going on in the rear. You know what I'm saying? I think every Black organization in Sacramento needs to be in one room at one time, talking about what everybody's doing as a whole, as well as individually. But we all need to be in one room, every single organization. Also, I would say, you know, I brought it up. Let the youth lead. Support the youth. They have Sac City BSU, Sac State BSU, and Sac High students are going to be leading a school walkout tomorrow at 11:30. I believe the brunt of the people will be meeting up at Sac City College at 11:30, and the theme is March for Our Lives too.
So tomorrow is Thursday because the rebroadcast
Tomorrow, Thursday
is
at
Saturday.
11:30.
So we want to make sure people know we're talking about Thursday at 11:30 a.m. What's that? March 7th?
Yes, that's tomorrow.
March
Yeah.
7th. Yes.
Thursday, 11:30 a.m. And the theme is March for Our Lives 2, which derives from the March for Our Lives, which took place in D.C., I believe, after the Parkland,
That's
Florida
correct.
school shootings.
That's right. Yeah.
And I would say that if we're going to talk about disarming the citizens, we need to first bring up police and police shootings. You know,
Let's go back. So I'm going to go to Tanya and then to Richard, and we're going to be out. Mama Mills and I, during Black History Month, redoubled down along with Marty Marr and E-Money, our knowledge of Black history. We do it 365, but it's nice to really focus on it during that time. And one of the things we've been doing is reading what the former slaves, what slaves said in their own voice, through the slave narratives or what, nothing sugar-coated, here's their story told by them. And one of the things that's reinforced over and over again is something Spike Lee made reference to, even though he was jumping up in Samuel L. Jackson's arms and all that, even though he did Black Klansman, which, you know, I'm not down. He said something, 400 years of slavery as a history in this country, And cops, and I've heard some of y'all say it, started in this country as slave
Slave
catchers.
catchers.
There was no police department.
That's
in-
the logic.
there
Slave
wasn't.
patrol, their badge was slave patrol.
That's what it was. And the thing is, when I hear you talk about Parkland and about disarming the people, the whole Second Amendment thing was an armed militia to arm the people to make sure when the British came back, which they did in 1812, everybody was strapped.
And also to protect the citizens from rogue government and total totalitarian. I can't say it right now.
Totalitarian.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? To
Yes.
protect the citizens.
Yes.
So, and black people need to be protected first and foremost. We need to be
Ooh,
protecting
ooh,
ourselves.
Tanya,
Why you always do that to me?
we're all
We're on a
amped
roll.
up. We're all- Can I say one thing though? Richard is a former Panther, and we've talked about that. And when people describe BLM and say things about how violent they think BLM is, I have said my experience has been absolutely not the case. And to me, BLM is a Panther without the guns and the bullets sometimes. But what's that like, being mischaracterized as consistently as people mischaracterize what Black Lives Matter Sacramento is all about?
I
What
think
would
I
you say
get
to them?
more offended when people commend us on how peaceful we are. I'm just gonna say, I think I get more offended by that because it creates this narrative that we're supposed to be peaceful when we're being treated violently. And so that offends me more than when people call us violent.
Yep.
Even though we haven't done anything violent, we've never been violent.
Let me talk about that for a minute, because I was thinking about it in terms of Dr. King. They try to say Dr. King was a peace lover. Dr. King was nonviolent. Dr. King was in violence all the time.
Our communities are in violence
He
all the time.
he strategically put kids and women and white folks in violence because he knew when the greater America saw them being victimized. So this thing about not being violent ain't something that necessarily appeals to me one way or the other. But as you said, sometimes an attempt to compliment someone is exactly the opposite. I don't think y'all are peaceful. I think you guys up to this point have been nonviolent. There's a difference in terms of my interpretation. My brother Brrazey's over there. Brrazey is over there smiling. I like the way he said Brrazey. I like that.
I want to finish what I was saying though a minute ago is that we get a lot of people that tell us that they will. The support is conditional based on how we act, and to me, we don't want that type of support. We don't want support from people that are placing conditions on us when we're enduring so much violence on a regular basis in this very city. So that's a problem. I feel like that's problematic.
And I would say that's why Build Black takes away the voice of Black Lives Matter Sacramento most of the time, is because they are the radical portion of that coalition, and they don't want the radicalness to be in the main picture because that'll take away potential funds, I would say. You know what I'm
We've
saying?
even been told that. Like,
Wow.
we've been told, like, oh, we got to treat these people delicate because they're fragile. And they don't use that words, but that's what they're saying. Is like, hey, they might be uncomfortable with you, so we're trying to be strategic. And to me, like, the whole reason we got there is because we did not treat people delicately.
Well, one of the things that I want to take away, Richard, I want you to do a special shout out to somebody who's listening to us from a long way away. But one of the takeaways from this is the idea of a meeting initiated by us for us,
Yes.
in which everybody's in the same. I love that
Every
idea.
single person.
Indeed.
Everybody will be invited. Now, whether people participate or not, or they got scheduling conflict, or they don't want to do it or whatever, but I love the idea of everybody being in one place as long as it takes. This ain't no 5 or 10 minutes. This may take a while.
Yeah.
So, Richard.
Whole lot of Blackish.
Mark, I got a couple quick points. I know we're coming to the close of the show. Today is March 6th.
Yes.
In March 6th, 1857, what happened, Mark? You're an attorney. Dred Scott decision,
That's
right? Said we weren't citizens, and it's so ironic.
3/5 of a human
That's
being.
correct. And so we're sitting here having this conversation on the anniversary of that day. Let me also say to the people listening, when we talk, Mark and I get in a lot of trouble with our mouths sometimes. We're journalists too.
That's
That's
real.
right.
And so understand that when we come to this show, we have to have integrity and honesty and clarity about what we say. And we're going to rub some people the wrong way with what we say. But if Bill Black is offended by what we say, you're welcome to
Come back.
hit Mark up and come up here. And
I'm going to be the
brother,
one to get that phone call.
well, no,
That's
you
all right.
are. We'll
You'll
get it too.
You'll get it.
And, you know, listen, the brother that's heading it up from Sierra Health Foundation, he's welcome. I'm sure, Mark, if he contacts you
Well,
to
he's
come
been
on.
invited on more than one
He
occasion
has.
and hasn't even responded.
And that's true.
And I'm talking about Chet Hewitt. I'm gonna call him out by name. I'm gonna call him out by name.
Okay,
I'm
Aries.
not right. You know me. I'm not scared.
Nah.
I mean, it is what it is. And my thing is, he may say, I don't believe that your show or you are worth my time. I'm a big person. I can accept that. Assemblyman Cooper has been invited to come on this show and justify some of his actions.
Ooh, I talk so bad about
never
it,
has
that might be hard.
He won't come on.
So we just want the community that's listening to us to know what we're dealing with in those spaces. Go ahead.
Mark, say hi to Jill.
Jill.
Jill Campbell.
Jill
her
Campbell.
late mother was a really good friend of mine, Leslie Campbell, well known from the Del Paso area. She's all the way in Tennessee and hit me up on
Listen to the show
on Facebook and just said, I'm listening to Family Matters today and I feel the fire. It's an amazing show. Thank you. I'm so proud of y'all. God's power. Stay up.
Come on. So I'm going to let
Just a shout
our
out.
two
Black
guests,
power.
that's what we're saying, man. I'm going to let our guests, in fact, Tanya, I'm going to let you close, if you will. We are already at the end of our show. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing? And next week we'll have Tanya Faison back in studio where she will have her own show for 2 hours. So Tanya, what would you like to tell our listening audience?
Just right now is a very important time. We need the people to show up. We're going to be at the police station. There's so many, over the last year while we've been fighting for Stephon, there's a lot of things that have changed. We have a lot more people on the ground organizing now, which is really beautiful. We've got a lot of young people out there organizing. We were out there in the streets, and it was not our protest, but there was an organized protest out in the streets in the Fabulous 40s a couple nights ago, and it ended very violently, and a lot of people were hurt. And this is exactly why we need people out there with us, because if they're able to have more police out there than the people, then we're always going to end up getting. That's how it's always happened. So we need the people out there with us. People power is right now, like we need that.
Thank you.
All
both.
power to the people.
Hey, we've got Charge the Castle, we've got Black Lives Matter.
Hey, can I say?
I gotta go, because
All
I
right,
gotta
for
get
sure,
off,
for
because
sure.
unfortunately, I'm looking at the clock. Go ahead, brother. You can say it quick. Go ahead.
Well, this was really just uplifting
I
Pan-Africanism
like
worldwide, you know what I'm saying? And big shout out to Kwame Nkrumah and his legacy in Ghana. It's Ghana's Independence Day. Big shout out to Africa as a continent and the diaspora worldwide everywhere.
I'm glad.
Man, I didn't know young people knew anything about Kwame
Something
Nkrumah.
told me to
I
let
studied
that
the
brother
Black
say
Book.
what he wanted to say.
Read his Black Book.
Hold on,
Indeed.
if it's Wednesday or Saturday, it's time for Family Matters. We were amped up. We had wonderful guests, Betty Williams, Tanya Faison, my brother, Brrazey.
Brrazey.
Brrazey. I'm going to get it right. Martin's going to get me right with this. Brrazey, she said like,
It's crazy with the B.
there you go.
But you roll your R.
Brrazey.
Charge the Kastle with a K.
Come on, man. If it's Wednesday or Saturday, it's time for Family Matters. We're going to get out of the way so the big homie, Eric Dostey, can do his thing. Embrace one another in love. And don't forget to walk in peace. Peace! Oh, okay. What's going on, Eric Dostey? Man, I was worried that you weren't going to get here, man.